Welcome to the Kindness Project, the podcast designed to share stories of kindness and share how kindness can make positive change in our world, one small act at a time.
This week on the Kindness Project, we talk about learning a new word, cognitive disorders, and we have part one of our interview with James Herbertson.
Welcome to, as they say in France. What do you mean, no?
No.
What do you mean, no?
You offended the dog last time you tried the French accent. He started barking at
Let's
me.
see if the dog starts barking if I do my French accent. Welcome, my friends, to, as they say in France, Le Kindness Project. The dog did just look at me and now he wants to come out. So at some point I might have to leave and let the dog out. This is a professional podcast, 100 on, nearly 200 episodes in, isn't it? I am joined by a girl who has learned a new word. It's Charlotte Dames.
And I'm joined by a man who's 7 foot and in denial. It's Chris Dames.
But I'm 6'2", maybe 6'3" if I'm on my tippy toes. But funny enough,
the lady don't protest too much.
Funny enough, because I'm a 43-year-old man, I don't get on my tippy toes too often. There's no, I mean, as a kid, you were allowed to get on your tippy toes and nobody moaned about it. Why can't I do it as a 43-year-old man?
There's no one stopping you.
I will spend a lot of today on my tippy toes. Just so I'm 6'3", but I'm never going to get to 7 foot, am I? Clearly.
Oh, you're done growing now.
I'm probably done growing, and probably
You might shrink
the
in
only
old
thing.
age, but
Well,
you know.
the only thing I'm going to do now is shrink, isn't it? That's the only thing I'm going to do, unless science evolves that we can have robot legs. Because if that is the case, I will have a pair of robot legs.
Permanent booster shoes.
Definitely. Jetpack feet.
Oh, I wasn't thinking I was thinking more like platform shoes, but like.
Why would I wear special shoes? I'm 6'2". I've got no. I could wear stilts.
You could.
I could wear stilts. Tell us about this new word you've learned.
Prosopagnosia.
What's it mean?
It's basically this thing where people can't recognise faces.
I don't know what you mean, Alan.
This again.
Oh, go on, prosopagnosia. Tell us about
Just
it.
one time, I'd like to say something and not be made a joke out of.
Go on, tell me then. Tell me. Let's have a serious conversation about prosopagnosia.
No, that was it. I'm done.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
Well, no, tell me about it, because their audience might want to know what it is.
It's face blindness. People can't recognise people by their faces because, I don't know, something in their brain doesn't work properly. Sorry, my throat just got really dry.
And what causes it? Do they know?
I don't know.
And why are you interested in it?
I heard it and then I went on a Google rabbit hole.
Well, that's the problem with the new word, isn't it? It's like, oh, that looks interesting.
Yeah.
And I think it can be caused sometimes. I remember seeing a documentary on it a few years ago. It can be caused by brain injury, can't it?
Yeah.
Like brain injury can create, amazing artists who lose their short-term memory, but it ignites some other part of the brain that gives them amazing creative skills.
Well, wasn't there that guy, Clive Waring, I think was his name, and he couldn't remember anything short-term, and he couldn't access his episodic long-term memory, so the memory of his events, but he could still remember how to play the piano perfectly.
Right.
And he still knew his wife. He didn't know her. He just knew that every time she came into the room, she was important to him.
Right.
But he couldn't actually remember who she was. He just knew.
I wonder if the feelings of love are stored in a different part of their head than the feelings of memory.
Maybe.
I don't know.
I mean, there's memory that doesn't get lost. Like I was saying, he still remember how to play the piano because that's procedural memory and not episodic memory.
Yeah.
But there's also like stuff like semantic memory.
If you, and again, this is a recommendation for listeners who, if you haven't read it, there's an amazing book I read a few years ago. I think I've got it on Kindle still, so you can borrow it if you wanted to. It's called The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat. And it's by a psychologist called Oliver Sacks, who used to specialise in severe cognitive disorders. So not like the normal cognitive disorders that you and I might go through, but people who think their wives are that. and stuff like that. So certainly, if you like that sort of thing, Oliver Sacks, the man who thought on mistook his wife for a hat, is certainly worth a read. And on that note, and we'll come on to question of podcasts in a minute. How do people get in touch with us? French accent edition only.
No. So we have a Twitter which is @OlaKindness.
Ola Kindness. Yes, go on next.
Okay. We have a Facebook.
Have we got a big audience in France?
I don't know.
Not anymore.
No, not with you butchering their accent.
Go on then. Next one.
Facebook, if you just type the Kindness Project into the search bar.
Just type the Kindness Project into the search bar.
No.
You're not doing the French. I've got to do it.
I don't want to do the French.
Go on.
We have an email which is www.thekindnessproject.co.uk. We have a website which is thekindnessproject.co.uk.
Sorry, you gave the email as the website, and then the website as the website. So the email is holla, HOLA, at thekindnessproject.co.uk, and the website is www.thekindnessproject.co.uk. MySpace?
Oh, we had to shut it down.
Oh, did we? Why? Is it because of those pictures you posted?
Actually, it's because of the pictures you posted, but you know.
Oh, God.
I told you to keep it to yourself, mate.
Let's not even go there on that. And we've got an amazing question of the podcast as well. I've just got this image of people now Googling MySpace to see what images I've posted. That's not going to be good. I don't think, I can't even remember whether I had a MySpace account.
I've never had a MySpace.
But we have, we've got an amazing question of the podcast, and the question of the podcast this week is, what is the world's greatest wonder? What is the world's greatest natural wonder? So we're open to suggestions from whatever aspects of life that you however you want to interpret that question. Feel free. We'd love to hear what you think, and feel free to let us know what you think is the world's greatest natural wonder. Should we get on with the show?
Let's do it.
So this week we've got an interview with the amazing James Herbertson. James is a social entrepreneur, runs Bayswater College, which effectively helps educate international children, teaches language, does a lot of amazing work in the community. He's also a part of an organisation that helps educate people in Zimbabwe. Certainly he does amazing work. We talk to him about a wide range of stuff, including social entrepreneurship, running businesses for the greater good, education, and loads of other stuff. Other stuff too. So without further ado, shall we listen to James's interview?
Let's do it.
James, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. We really appreciate it, mate. How are you today?
Good. Yeah,
good.
Yeah,
good day at the college.
Great day at the college.
So what's been happening?
Well, Mondays are always a busy day because you've got all the new starters. We've got lots of different courses running at the moment. So
do you have starters start every week, or is it
every week?
How come?
So with English language, you have a lot of what kind of roll-on, roll-off system. So people can study from as short as 1 week right up to a year.
Right.
So they can start literally every Monday. We've got people coming in, and it's really, we were discussing it this morning. Some days normally open up the college around sort of 8:30. Sometimes you can have a queue out the door with everyone arriving way too early, or you can have people
coming in too late.
Yeah. So one student this morning that managed to arrive 4 hours early for their course, which was an afternoon course. So we said, well, thank you very much, did all the sort of admin side of things. And then somehow she managed to still turn up 7 minutes late for the start of her class.
Yeah, so even though she was around.
Yeah, not sure how that happened.
Yeah.
But we're going into the kind of winter phases now, so the summer's really like the busy period we've got. Like, junior students as young as 8 studying with us, right up to sort of 70, 80-year-olds, and so on. Probably the oldest.
So
most people around the sort of university age, kind of post-university at university.
Okay. So before we start talking about the college, tell us a little bit about you.
It's actually really fun being with the two. I spent the weekend with my daughter, so I'm a father, got a 2-year-old.
Okay.
So I really aspire that hopefully one day I'd love to do
this is good
project.
Fun, I mean, we've tried to get we have had a special guest presenter who's Sophie, who's my 8-year-old. And
how did that
go? She enjoys it.
What's the best word for it? Shambolic, I think.
That's us on a good day.
That's
us on a terrible day.
Yeah, shambolic is just me and you, just chaos, absolute chaos. Because she's 8 and she wants to get involved as actively as possible.
That's lovely.
Yeah, so she has been involved in a couple of podcasts. 2 might be a bit young.
I think so. Well, I've just come back from China, so I brought Sky, my daughter, and brought back a big panda. So I think the panda would have to be heavily involved if she was in it.
Great. How was China?
Oh, China, brilliant.
Yeah.
For me, I find it's a fascinating place. I've been a few times. But I went for just under 2 weeks, and we had packed it in.
Yeah.
Went to 6 different cities.
Was it work? Or?
It was work, yeah.
Okay.
I was going around to visit what we call like language travel agents, so people that are sending students all around the world. In this case, they tend to send them to, say, the UK or America or Australia and so on. And to try and convince them to send their students to us.
Your college.
Yeah,
okay.
And it was great actually, because it just in the last day, we got a commitment to send some students to our campus. We have one up in University of Hertfordshire in Hatfield. Made a commitment there. That was like brilliant.
Amazing.
Sort of just after all the sort of intensity, we had like 31 meetings in 8 working days. So it was pretty full on, if I'm honest. So that was great, and we've had a few more since going back. So sometimes you go on these trips and you don't hear anything from some of the people, but you come out of the meeting thinking, wow, here we go. But yeah, it's been positive.
It was good. Where, so daughters 2, tell us a little bit about your life with a 2-year-old then. How are you sleeping?
Not a lot. Although it's kind of fun coming back from a trip like that, because you're in a completely different time zone, so it helps. I try to, with the college, I'm spending obviously a lot of time working there, so the weekend's always very special.
Yeah.
And my partner, she was away, she's a trained yoga instructor, so she was away on a retreat. So it was full-on daddy-daughter time this weekend.
Good. Yeah.
So it's going down the swings, back home.
Swings are good. We don't do the swings anymore, do we, really?
I do them on my own.
Why are you missing me out on? I want to go. Seesaw we should have a go on. That's normally my favourite. No, we're not doing seesaw.
I won't be able to get down.
Sorry, what are you trying to say?
Nothing.
And your life before the college, because you've told me the college has been running for 2 years.
Yeah.
What did you do before the college started?
Well, I guess I've been in the education industry for the last kind of 10, 15 years. In some ways, the kind of story I always trace back to is when I went to study a language for the first time myself. And I got the bug for it. I went to study Spanish for 4 months in Malaga. Okay. And for me, it was just a life-changing experience to be able to talk to people in another language, to sort of go beyond your little world that you've been living in and realise that there are many other people who experience sometimes very similar things, sometimes very different, culturally, to live in Spain, to make Spanish friends.
Do you think language is always easier to learn when you're in the country, immersed in the country you're learning the language?
Oh, definitely. Without a doubt. I mean, because you can't practice. You know, if you learn language typically in this country, if you're sort of over 18, then you'll be doing like evening classes, for example, and doing 2 to 4 hours. You're only going to progress so much if you're not practicing and so on. But for me, the joy of learning a language is being able to communicate with other people. I always like to refer to like Michelle Thomas. I don't know if you'd heard of him. He did these like language CDs in the sort of 80s, 90s.
Okay.
And he always talked about like getting like a game of tennis. Language is like getting the ball over the net.
Yeah.
It's not about getting it precisely correct.
It's comprehension, isn't
exactly.
it? As opposed to,
And if you get it over the net when the ball's played back to you, then of course if you're dealing with like a native speaker, then they're going to make the correction.
I always think, I mean, certainly I struggle with English, but the
You're not alone there, mate.
I'm doing Cockney, all right, but English I struggle with. But I think sometimes the barrier, certainly has been for me, is wanting to do it in a way that doesn't embarrass yourself.
Yeah.
Or offend them.
Or offend them in speaking in somebody's language. Sure. I think sometimes you need to get over that.
Oh, totally.
Challenge, right? Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest things, and we see that in the college, the way people's confidence above all.
Yeah.
And it's not just confidence in speaking a language, it's confidence in themselves. And you have to really, I mean, that's why it's amazing when there's sometimes a presentation, or the other day we did like a talent show in the college. And when people really put themselves out there, like singing in front of a crowd or dancing or whatever they want to do.
It's a confidence builder, isn't it?
It's a total confidence builder. And I look back at that time, I was like 18, 19, and you arrive as a British teenager thinking you know everything. Soon realize that you don't. But that was, for me, I came back so much more confident in myself, and it was before going to university, it was a great thing to do.
And so that was start your career. You went into education and did what?
Well, first I was a language travel agent, so I wanted to turn the model on its head. So having had this great experience, I wanted to have my own business in the language industry. I wanted others to have the same experience that I did. And so it was around 2005, so not the dawn of the internet, but it was really when, looking back, sort of internet businesses, especially in the travel arena, was really picking up. And so I turned them on its head by being based in the UK, receiving people from all around the world, but a lot of them were coming from Spain to come and study English. And I wanted
because that was where the connection was.
Yeah, exactly. And I wanted to give people the opportunity to help fill in all those gaps, because I always think the funny thing from being when you're studying abroad, the problems or the challenges you face are not when you're in your home country, when you've got your support network, your family, your friends and so on. It's of course when you go abroad. Yeah. So I started a business then called Answer English and ran that for 3 or 4 years. But it just wasn't really, from a business commercial point of view, wasn't really making a lot of money. The cost of acquiring a customer was far too much, and so I decided to sell it. Yeah. And fortunately I managed to sell it, got all my money back, which is great. And then I worked on the accommodation side of the business. I did that for 8 years and sold the business. I was helping students find accommodation. And what I was kind of feeling by the end was, on a purpose point of view, we were doing a great thing. You know, we were housing literally thousands of students every year, but it was at the end of the day putting people's like bums in beds effectively. And I'd worked in the industry, I really wanted to do it. And the other part was that we're dealing with people that come from a relatively affluent background. Not everybody, especially some of the Europeans, but when you look at the people we have coming from South America, the Middle East,
to afford to come to the UK.
Exactly. One, the air, the flight, then to live, especially in a city like London. People are coming from a relatively affluent background, and unfortunately for every one of those that comes, there's many, many more that will never ever have that opportunity. And so that's why we started Bayswater as a social enterprise.
Amazing.
We wanted the people, and the whole business fundamentally is for the people that come to study with us, we want them to have a great experience. They want to come to us because they believe that they're going to have a better future or more opportunities themselves. But as a result of them being there, that we could help people from a less fortunate or less privileged background. So we formed it in 2 years. I say we because got a business partner, Stefan, and he'd worked in the industry. In fact, I used to be an agent of his way back when, and a client with my combination business. So I've known him for years, and we both kind of had this kind of...
Where did the idea first come to fruition? Where was it like?
Well, it was very interesting. Like all things in any sort of partnership, if you ask two people get two different opinions. Stefan, he'd been very inspired by the Tom's shoes. I don't know if the fashion brand. So buy a pair of shoes and then give a pair of shoes to someone who doesn't have them. For my inspiration, I've actually got a charity I started with some mates of mine called Zimbabwe Rural Schools Development Programme, or ZRSDP for short, which is great if you're playing Scrabble and stuck.
Does that count as a word?
It does an half.
That's an anagram.
And we had our first product, which was this, it's like a sort of power bank for your phone. And when you bought one of those, we sent a solar panelled light to Zimbabwe. Because a bit like we are now looking out the window, after you get 5, 6 o'clock in the evening, unless you've got a paraffin lamp, you basically can't study. So the idea was making this link between you buying a product and then in return, you're actually receiving something, but you're also giving to someone else. And that reciprocal idea, I hadn't really seen in play before. And I went to this event and we bought 100 of these products and we sort of scratched our heads, how are we going to sell them? Anyway, I was at this event where there's 55 people and I thought, I'll give it a go. I'll pitch it. It was actually in this kind of business. And I went out the front. I was following this architecture that we've been taught how to pitch and make a presentation. Got to the end and I said, does anyone want to get one? And one bloke goes, I'll buy 11. And I was like, wow. And I was really sort of slightly taken back. And I said, anyone else want to buy one? And literally everyone pretty much put their hands up.
That first fella's done you a message.
He did. He totally set the bar.
He set the bar. Everybody was going, at least I need to take one now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I looked at my sort of group and I was a bit emotional. Some of the ladies, they thought I was crying, so they started crying. And then I saw them crying. I did start crying, and it was a really emotional moment for me. Anyway, I managed to sell 55 of them in the space of 10 minutes. Cool. And it just really sort of struck me as, wow, if people are actually getting something for themselves, then it's not like charity where you give a donation, but you might get an email, a newsletter, but you feel completely unattached to the good that's happening. Whereas in this case, you're actually getting a product that you wanted for yourself.
See, it's interesting because I think, and we'll come on to explore a bit more about the college in a minute, but certainly one of the values in our business, and we're seeing a lot more, is businesses who want to do good, right? Businesses who understand they've got to make a profit and continue to grow to be sustainable, but why not just give back to your local community or your world or anything like that? Why should those things be mutually exclusive? And your model is that, isn't it? It's do well, but deliver a service that's right for your clients or customers, but also do good. Do you see that growing in the education space?
Well, what we wanted to make is very important, this distinction, that's why we're a social enterprise, is that the doing good parts of the projects we do abroad, and we did one in the UK as well, comes out of revenue rather than profits. Unfortunately, for many businesses that choose to do good out of profits, one of the downsides is, of course, that if they have a bad year or they have a change of ownership or what have you, then suddenly it can be less. So we want to make a model where there was a link. And secondly, because of the nature of our business, what I would love, and it's a bit early days for that because we've only been running the projects we've been doing for going on close to a year now, but I would love it that some of the students could go and visit some of those projects and get involved, or maybe they'll be inspired to have their own social enterprise or do something in their home country. Or our team members, so Sonia, who works for us, recruiting students from South America, she's just been to visit a project in Colombia, and she's Colombian, and I know she's actually coming back in a week's time, but I know when she comes back, when she shares that moment and shares it with the team.
It's a story.
It's a great story.
It's a story.
So that's really the kind of dream. So as Bayswater develops as a business, the plan is to do more and more projects. So at the moment we've got one in Brazil, we've got another one in Colombia, and we did a programme up at Nottingham University this summer for refugees. But the idea eventually is for wherever a student comes from in the world, we will do a programme in the home country, so we can really make that reciprocal. So at the moment I'm talking to various different charities and organisations. We'd like to start a project soon in Thailand. I'd like to do something in Italy. It may be their that we're working again with refugees. We'd like to do something in China because we have so many students in the future going to come from there. So we're going to develop up a network and so on.
So help me understand a little bit more about the college then. How many people a year come? I know it's early days, the first couple of years, but how many people a year come through the college at the moment?
Well, we actually bought a college that already existed, so it's actually been as a barrier to entry into the education industry. It helps if you've got British Council accreditation because you can have.
And that college had it already.
So they've been around since the 70s. So we've got around about sort of 50 nationalities in a year, not all at the same time. Some nationalities more than others. We have a lot of Brazilian and Thai students, for example, at the moment. But in the summer, you might have a lot of Italians, for example. So it depends on the time of year.
And I know you mentioned before we start recording the podcast that people can come for a week up to a year.
Yeah.
Typically, how long do they stay in the
Well,
college?
if they're coming in the summer, it's typically like 2 or 3 weeks is quite typical, certainly on the junior students. In the sort of September round till May period, I think the average is probably about 6 or 7 weeks. It's a bit of a false average because, again, some people can only be here for a couple of weeks. And a lot of people do end up staying with us for 6 months. In some ways, the 6-month students are the ones where you can really get to know them. You can really focus on their goals that they want to achieve. When someone's coming for a week or 2 weeks, you have to be realistic. You can't get to know them as well, and for them, there's only so much you can achieve in a short period of time. So, for the adult students, for me, it's very special. With some of the other things we do beyond the classes, I have an event we run every Tuesday, which is called World Cafe, which is a community-based event where we welcome people in the local community, also people from a refugee background, so they can experience being in the college. And we get a guest speaker in. We've had like a whole different range of people, from someone that started their own donut brand, someone had a pop-up coffee, to someone that was working at the Foreign Office, someone from Olio, this food sharing app. So we've had like a completely different, diverse range. And they normally give kind of like a talk or presentation to share how they got into their job, why they do what they do. And then after that, we talk about the 2 main objectives that people have. One is either to get a job, not necessarily in the UK, but it might be to get a job back in their home country, how to do your CV, how to prepare for interview skills. And then the other one is to go off to university. So Jessica, who works with us, she used to work for Regent's University. So she understands all that process, which, it's a great thing for students. It's like, I'd love to do that, but how do I do that? Or for people from a refugee program, maybe they're in a kind of entry-level job, maybe they're working in the bar or retail and what have you, and they want to go back to what they studied in their home countries, but don't have the things that maybe we can take for granted, the network, the support, just the how-to. So that's what we try to do. So it's those type of things. So when someone's with us for that long, they can join in our social events, they can come to the World Cafe.
And also, I'd imagine, living outside of the country of origin, they haven't, as you said, a support network, not only a commercial network and a network to potentially sort of scale their idea, just friends, because it could be quite a lonely environment for somebody like that.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's what I think, though, is the magic also about being in a language school environment, is that you've got all these different nationalities, people that you're rubbing shoulders with that you never really necessarily would have met. Sometimes people with countries that previously been at wars, set next to each other. So it's kind of born in that kind of 60s hippie sort of peace ideals and so on. So it's a very warm environment, I think, very accepting. Especially some people coming from very difficult situations before, I think they can feel very welcome in their environment. But you don't obviously have the same thing that you do in your home country with your friend. You've got to make friends. And make them kind of instantly when you get there. But
also there's potential to learn loads, isn't there, I'd imagine? What do you think?
Yeah, I think there's lots of potential within the...
one of those days.
It is one of those days. My brain's just shut off. I think there's lots of potential for, not only people to learn, but also for people to create their own opportunities for themselves based on this new network that they are creating for themselves.
Yeah, it's interesting though what you said about getting business owners and entrepreneurs in to speak to your students. Are a lot of your students of that mindset that they want to create their own thing? And is that the reason that you're getting these speakers in, or is it come from the fact that you want to inspire ideas in the student body? What are your thoughts?
I think a bit of both, to be honest. Okay. I think it's a very formative period of people's lives. We're talking about a lot of the students there between sort of 20 and 30. So they're sort of still finding their feet, not entirely sure always what they want to do. So for me, it's very important to expose them to those sort of things, because it's not for me to judge what happens in their home lives or back in their home countries, but our mission is all about educating and inspiring the next generation. I guess having been an entrepreneur, tarnished with that, and you want people to
and the world
see
of
those
work is fundamentally different now to the way it was 30 years ago, right? So you need to expose people to the fact that, like, if you want to start something yourself and
it's entirely possible.
Absolutely, it's your choice and to do it. I mean, you mentioned about the importance of education. How important do you think education and knowledge is in a young person's ability to live a full life?
Fundamental.
Okay.
And I think I'm very lucky. My dad, from an early age, was always banging on about the importance of education to him. And I think that looking at that in a kind of environment piece, if you haven't had that, I think it's very difficult. It's down to you as a person and how important you judge education to be. But I know I've been very lucky by my dad. I think he didn't manage to get to university, and he wanted to go to university, and probably his only real big regret that he had, or disappointment, was the fact that he didn't get to go to university. Okay. So for me, I think he was sort of drilling this into me from an early age. And I've seen it. I mean, in some ways, with Bayswater, still quite an early stage, but with the work we've done in Zimbabwe, with the charity work there, I mean, it's just amazing to see when people have an opportunity and they have more access to it, and how they can blossom as people, and you can see the opportunity. So definitely, I mean.
So that was part one of James's interview. Look, as usual, we cut all of our interviews down into two parts. So you will be able to listen to the second part of James's interview next week. Shall we get on with the end of the show?
Right, let's do this. 'Tis the end of another podcast. But the end is never truly the end.
Where's your French? I thought we were doing French edition.
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
We're not.
Please,
we're not.
no.
Okay, that's fine. Now, we did have an amazing question of the podcast last week, and it was a pretty popular one, actually. The question we asked last week is, what song is the best song to dance around the kitchen to? What do you think your favourite song to dance around the kitchen to is?
I think we had this discussion last week, but because Soph was on last week, and I said me and Soph, when we're clearing the kitchen, we put Hamilton on and just sing along in the kitchen.
Yeah. You and Sophie having a rap battle is one thing to be believed, but you and I like a rap battle as well, don't we? High five, not appropriate for a podcast, but we'll have it anyway.
Hear it.
Yeah, exactly. It sounds like you're just giving me a slap. But you're so short you can't reach me face.
You're so tall you can't even reach the bloody floor.
Right. On that note, let's talk about the answers from our audience. John Cook said there's only one. Mark Morrison, Return of the Mac. Do you know what that song is?
Yes.
Yeah, cool. Sam Chilton said Steve Chilton and I's favourite is Tones and I, Dance Monkey. I don't think I've ever heard of that. I'll have to give that a little watch. Stevie Dan said Rebel Yell by Billy Idol. Caroline Thompson said Don't You Worry Child by Swedish House Mafia. I actually like that song. Andrew Barrett said My House Madness. Tune. Hayley Ball said She Bangs a Drum by the Stone Roses. Mark Rutter, who I know because he's commented on the podcast before, is a bass controller. said UB40, Rat in My Kitchen. Mix it up with a bit of work. Well done. Dave Forsythe said The Power of Love by Huey Lewis and the News. Definitely the best version of The Power of Love. And Dave also likes Another One Bites the Dust by Queen. Now, I've got to say, Queen is a good artist to pick for Dancing in the Kitchen, isn't it?
Yep. Sorry, I don't have much else to say about that. You're just like expecting elaboration. I was like, yeah.
What's your favourite so far?
I like Another One Bites the Dust, probably.
Okay.
A lot of the songs I vaguely recognise from being played to me, but I wouldn't choose to listen to them independently.
I have music played to me. Francis Barrett said, Let's Go Crazy Prince. Fiona Mapergo says, Jump by Van Halen. Now. How are we feeling about that one?
I love that song so much.
So do I. When did you first hear Jump by Van Halen?
I don't know. Spotify. I guess I found it.
Spotify. Jade Foster Jarrett said Ray of Light. Alan Bowley went Footloose, Kenny Loggins. That is an 80s classic. Sandy Wood said Tainted Love Soft Cell. Al McCann said Praise You by Fatboy Slim. Paul Gorman said Food for Thought by UB40. I don't know if I know that, to be honest. But Nicola Taylor's gone in for a UB40 as well. Kingston Town. Absolute banger. Tamsin Kane said there's only one choice, Mr. Brightside, of course. And Mike Christie went for one of my big listens at the minute, Billy Ocean with Red Light Spells Danger.
Have we talked about the Discovery Weekly on here?
I don't think we have. Do you want to share about Discovery Weekly?
Okay. So me and Dad, we do this thing where we go on Spotify and we look at our Discovery Weekly and we just randomly pull songs we like off it.
Just in case.
It's got some really good discoveries.
So you showed it to me first, didn't you? And I was like, I'm sort of, there's songs that I sort of either haven't heard for ages or I've never heard. Spotify, based on your previous playlists, actually. So Spotify, based on your previous playlists, actually recommend songs for you, and you love it, don't you?
I pull loads of songs from it every week. I started doing it when we shared an account, so all of the music was a bit
that's the problem. When we shared an account, because we've got the Spotify Duo account now, Spotify, if you do want to sponsor us, feel free to get in touch, because we do love your work.
I mean, considering we spent a collective total of around 900 hours on Spotify.
How did we do that?
I don't know.
How did we spend 900 hours listening to music?
Last year was very study heavy for both of us.
Yeah.
So we probably just had it on in the background.
But you know what? The thing is, because I sometimes put music on when I'm going to bed, and you do as well. Then it's on while you're sleeping and stuff like that, and you just rack up hours that way, don't you?
Yeah, so, but it's not that many. It's 4, 5.
What?
Hours that I rack up while I'm sleeping.
You need to get more sleep. And on that note, that's the end of another podcast. We will see you next week on the Kindness Project.
Bye.